Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're hunting for secrets and Easter eggs you might have missed in some of the PS5's most recent releases.
The premier exhibit of wonders in the galaxy.
Disco Resurrection, Goat Simulator 3.
I should really start explaining things before this intro ends. Don't have too much roll left. Look, we're almost there. Okay, so where do I begin?
The Goat Simulator series has never, not even once, taken itself seriously, and the game's ridiculous nature also carries over to its Easter eggs as well. There are of course no shortage of fun gags as well as nods to other franchises, but most, if not all of these, have been goatified to fit in with the game's ludicrous premise. However, you can play as a human character if you go to Liberty Island and baw your little goat heart out until the rock dons a halo and ascends, allowing you to bound your way into the cave. Once inside, you'll find what can only be described as Disco Jesus, and if you step onto the rock where he's resting, you can become the man himself and not only dress how you like with the game's numerous cosmetics, but also offer salvation one ba at a time. A fantastic nod. Marvel's Midnight Suns.
I know, no job's perfect. But at the end of the day, it's all about the coworkers.
Marvel's Midnight Suns manages to build quite a roster of recruitable heroes throughout its campaign, along with additional characters being added through DLC. But there's one famous family suspiciously absent from the rest of the Marvel lineup. But this doesn't mean there aren't still hints of their existence within the universe. Besides collectible tarot cards for each member of the Fantastic Family, as well as t-shirts emboldened with their heroic logo, in the Abbey Gardens, players can also find a broken stained glass window with only the Fantastic Four logo in the center remaining undamaged. However, the biggest hint to Marvel's first family comes in the post-credit scene, revealing Doctor Doom emerging from a portal and stealing the Darkhold. Whether this is a sequel tease or future DLC remains to be seen, however.
Amateurs.
Praise the Jump, the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
The Stanley Parable is without a doubt one of the most self-aware games ever made. With its narrator somehow constantly critiquing your every action and choice, the game has a seemingly endless number of responses to any given action. However, with the release of the Ultra Deluxe Edition, Crows finally added a much requested feature, the Jump Circle. But they weren't just going to add this feature without mocking the player for using it to find out-of-bounds areas. By climbing a section of cardboard boxes and crawling through a vent, players can find a glowing marker from seemingly another player or one of Stanley's co-workers, claiming players should praise the jump, in the same vein of players leaving messages for one another in From Software's Elden Ring and Dark Souls series.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
It takes a way out. It takes two.
What are these? I've never seen them before.
I gave them to Rose. They're from my favorite video game.
Joseph Fares's follow-up to A Way Out was not only a surprise by far exceeding its sales projections, but it also even won Game of the Year at the 2021 Game Awards show. However, that doesn't mean Joseph forgot about his previous two-player adventure A Way Out or its protagonists Vincent and Leo. In Chapter 3, players can find figurines of these two prison escapees, and jumping on their buttons will make each character recite some of their lines from their game.
Smooth, Leo. Very smooth.
This isn't the only Easter egg in this chapter either. After climbing to the top of the Pillow Fort, players can direct an antenna to pick up radio signals, and one of the broadcasts happens to be Fares's famous rant at the 2017 Game Awards, word for word.
Okay, can you swear here? Okay. The Oscars, you know? The Oscars!
The Collector's Collection, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hi.
Sunlord, right? Is it Rockstar?
It's Star-Lord.
Much like James Gunn's adaptations of the offbeat spacefaring heroes, Eidos Montreal's Guardians adventure was chock full of secrets, Easter eggs, and nods to the wider Marvel universe overall. And nowhere in the game is this better represented than in the Collector's Emporium, which houses over 20 objects of varying rarity, all on display, complete with descriptions and backstories. While there's obviously too many to name here, some of our favorites are Kang's Time Chair, Yondu's Yaka Arrow, Eye of the Watcher, the Cosmic Cube, and best of all, Throg, Frog of Thunder. The Collector's Emporium is very easy to miss and honestly quite expensive to visit during your time on Nowhere, but it's undeniably a treat for true Marvel fans.
Greetings. I hope you enjoyed the Emporium. Would you like to purchase a souvenir? We have some very unique items.
BT Lisa, Death Stranding Director's Cut. Like all Hideo Kojima's games, narrowing this down to one Easter egg was quite the challenge. From nods to other franchises as well as countless celebrity cameos, there's no shortage of secrets for players to uncover. However, for this entry, we wanted to highlight a completely random event the player might not even encounter in their entire playthrough. During one of Sam's trips back to base, he'll awaken from a nap and discover a shadowed figure in his shower. Approaching the shower will cause the figure to convulse violently before seemingly breaking free and providing one of the few genuine jump scares in the game. Many believe this shadowed figure to be the ghost of Lisa from the cancelled PT that was set to be Kojima's take on the iconic horror series Silent Hill. Seems we might not be the only ones mourning the game's untimely demise. A Stray's Half-Life, Stray. Stray instantly became one of the breakout hits of 2022, with fans everywhere falling in love with the Orange Tabby's exploits in a robot post-apocalyptic world. While a lot of love and care went into crafting their own world in Stray, developer Blue 12 Studios also paid homage to one of the greatest post-apocalyptic games of all time, Half-Life 2. During the opening of Half-Life 2, Gordon arrives in City 17 on a tram car, and in the Midtown chapter of Stray, our kitty friend finds a very familiar looking train car, and resting on the seat is Gordon's go-to melee weapon of choice, the classic crowbar. Berserker Ring, Final Fantasy XVI.
Welcome to the Patron's Whisper. Is everything we've received and everything promised? All yours.
There is no shortage of weapons and gear for Clive to find and upgrade during his exploits in the world of Valisthea, but some can be easily missed if you're not diligently helping your fellow bearers. Completing side quests will reward the player with renown, and various patrons who believe in your cause will offer donations, and the higher your renown, the greater the reward. Arguably, one of the most useful rewards is the innocuous Berserker Ring. Once equipped, if Clive performs a perfect dodge, he will gain access to some of his limit break abilities, and his sword will automatically ignite for additional damage. This effect can also be stacked the more perfect dodges the player lands in a row, making it incredibly useful for those tougher encounters. Whatever you do, do not accidentally sell this one-of-a-kind item. The Forbidden Meadows, Forspoken. While traversing the vast and mostly empty landscape of Forspoken discovering landmarks, you might have happened upon a seemingly impenetrable fortress in the Harvest Lands. With its enormous locked door, the structure was clearly designed to keep intruders out. Not only that, but the game repeatedly tells the player that they're in combat despite no enemies present. This is all by design, and players will need to head southeast to find the altar of Asan and defeat the enemies that spawn to reveal a portal that will allow you inside the Forbidden Meadows fortress and all the treasures that were guarded within. Origami Callbacks, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut.
Remember? You and your little friend gathered them to make little boats.
Many of Sony's first-party studios like to pay homage to the other developers under Sony's umbrella, and Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima is no different. Granted, they might be a bit harder to spot given the time period the game is set in, the team nonetheless found a clever way to include nods to their fellow creators. Within the ruins of a dilapidated cottage, Jin will find one area untouched by the pillagers rummaging. On the table are origami figures of some of Sony's other biggest franchises, such as Shadow of the Colossus, God of War, Ratchet & Clank, and even Gran Turismo.
You've been praying.
To my ancestors.
Thor's Wound, God of War Ragnarok.
Can I come in? I have need.
The first climactic battle between Kratos and Thor was a long time coming, and it did not disappoint. During their clash, Kratos strikes what would be a mortal wound for any other ungodly combatant, but as we see throughout the rest of our time in Ragnarok, Thor's wound never heals. We've seen most of the gods within the 9 realms take quite a lot of damage and eventually shake it off, Kratos included, but Thor's gut wound remains festering throughout. This detail, as it turns out, calls back to Kratos and Atreus' first meeting with Jormungandr, in which the serpent imbues the Leviathan axe with its poison Aetir. It would seem even at the start of their journey, the world serpent was preparing Kratos for his battle against Thor, as it's the serpent's poison that prevents Thor's wound from properly healing.
No more. For the sake of our children.
Developer logo: Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Okay, Pete! Yeah! I got this! Take it away, careful! Oh, whoa, wait! That's the ball!
Insomniac's Spider-Man swung onto the scene in 2018 and instantly became a fan favorite among webheads, and the acclaimed developer followed up their surprise hit with another banger in 2020 with a new adventure focused on Miles Morales' early days as the new Spider-Man. Early on in his solo outing, Miles is trying to wrangle a rampaging rhino as he smashes his way through a crowded mall during holiday shopping. As Rhino jumps from one balcony to another, he grabs a familiar looking decoration on the way. This is Insomniac's company logo, cleverly hidden within the other holiday festivities in a blink and you'll miss it moment that is admittedly difficult to catch on your first playthrough due to the chaos unfolding around the Spider-Men.
You know you're ruining Christmas, right?
The last 6 Christmases I was locked behind 30 feet of steel. I intend to enjoy this one.
Sea Shanty, Dead Space.
There once was a ship from the CECD, Ishimura USG. She cracked on boom with gravity. Go me, bully boys, go, huh?
As the Ishimura was about to meet its end at the claws and severed limbs of the necromorphs, the marker led much of the remaining crew to lose their minds. However, for those who came to investigate the aftermath, some were able to leave hidden messages for their doomed rescuers to decipher, in song form. Within the break rooms, particularly the ones with the staticky image of the marker, scrawled on the ground are a series of actions for Isaac to perform, which will unlock a hidden audio recording of the crew recounting the events that led to the infestation of the necromorphs, as well as their hope for an inevitable rescue that would arrive too late, all in the form of the popular sea shanty Wellerman. It's as catchy as it is unsettling.
The galleon comes to save our souls and take us home. One day when the fixing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Technical T-Rex, Astro's Playroom. Nearly everything in the PS5's pack-in game Astro's Playroom pays homage to Sony's popular consoles, but the final boss's significance might have gone unnoticed by only the most diehard of Sony fanboys. Just before the PS1's release in 1994, Sony gave a presentation to demonstrate the power of the PS1, and the star of the show was one of the most realistic T-Rex animations outside of Jurassic Park. Everything about the T-Rex during the start of the final boss fight is lifted almost directly from the PS1's official tech demo, complete with the slightly stuttery animation and even the aspect ratio. Alien Abduction, Gran Turismo 7. You wouldn't think the Polyphony super serious racing sim would have a lot of Easter eggs hidden within it, but the developers of Sony's flagship racer seem to have quite a lot of fun with hiding secrets for only the most dedicated of players to discover. Seemingly wanting to up the stakes from hiding the Loch Ness Monster in the last 3 entries, Polyphony upped the ante, and if players park their car and wait a decent amount of time at the curve near the onlookers on Mount Panorama, in the distance you can witness a UFO slowly descend and abduct an unsuspecting cow. And if the players use the game's photo mode, they can see that just like the hundreds of cars in the game, the UFO has a suspiciously impressive amount of detail. Is there something else Polyphony isn't telling us? The Secret Door, Demon Souls. With one notable exception, Bluepoint's remake of From Software's original Demon Souls is a near one-to-one faithful remake. The key difference being a secret door that taunted fans with its hidden secrets and possibilities after launch. The community immediately came together to solve the mystery, which even included callbacks to Bluepoint's previous remake of Shadow of the Colossus. By collecting at minimum 26 ceramic coins scattered throughout the game in a fractured mode, players trade the coins to the Crow for the rusty key, which unlocks the door hidden behind an illusionary wall. And inside, players can find the Penetrator's armor, which also happens to be a boss in the game. And now superfans and those dedicated enough can wear his armor with pride as they battle their way through Boletaria. Silence Tribute, Horizon Forbidden West, The Burning Shores. Portrayed brilliantly by Lance Reddick, Silence became an uneasy ally during the events of Horizon Zero Dawn, as well as its sequel, Forbidden West. Seemingly always looking out for his own interests, Silence eventually realized there was a greater threat on the horizon and teamed up with Aloy and company. Sadly, Lance Reddick passed away shortly before the release of Forbidden West DLC The Burning Shores, and shortly after, Guerrilla Games paid homage to the late actor with a memorial appropriately overlooking the Hollywood sign. This isn't the only honorary site in Forbidden West either. On a small island, Aloy will find a shrine dedicated to Patrick Munich, one of the lead producers at Guerrilla Games who also sadly passed away. Aloy will also find a note left behind and read the eulogy aloud for the developer's lost friend and co-worker.
Here we remember our friend, with a view as calming as his voice, on stone as strong as his spirit.
Rhino 8, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart.
You two want some new gear? I got a special discount at 100 Fathoms!
As we already stated, the devs at Sony Studios love to honor their fellow creators by including nods to their games and characters. But Insomniac truly went above and beyond with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, making full use of the game's central mechanic of multiversal rifts, as well as the series' iconic Rhino, or rip you a new one for newcomers. Once fully upgraded, this gun will drop in familiar friends, foes, and even objects from some of PlayStation's most iconic franchises. These include Jack from Naughty Dog's Jak and Daxter series, Sly Cooper as well as his van from Sucker Punch's Sly series, a Thunderjaw and Sawtooth from Guerrilla Games' Horizon series, as well as callbacks to Insomniac's own catalog, with the likes of Sunset Overdrive's Fizzy dropping in to say hello.
What are you doing here?
Extra Secret Ending, Returnal.
I have found a deceased Astro Scout here. Checking identification on helmet. It's...
Simply reaching the ending of Housemarque's roguelike can be challenging enough, but for those wanting the true ending of the game, you're going to have to work that much harder for it. The game's plot might already be a mind trip, but the extra secret ending players can unlock does manage to answer at least a few more of the players' burning questions about the world of Returnal. To unlock the secret ending, you're going to have to play through the game a second time, this time collecting artifacts known as Sunface fragments. But these appear randomly throughout the world, so prepare to live, die, and repeat numerous times to collect them all. Returning to the house and picking up the car keys, and after beating Ophion a second time, and then using the keys on the car, will unlock the secret ending.
I told you to leave me alone.
The Office Remake, The Last of Us Part 1.
There's some pretty gnarly stuff in here.
Ellie!
While many bemoan the need for a remake of Naughty Dog's iconic 2013 release of The Last of Us, there's no denying the game was a gorgeous overhaul. And while the game's accessibility as well as graphics seem to be the only things the remake updated, some players found a familiar location in Pittsburgh that also received a facelift. While not immediately noticeable, especially for those unfamiliar with the show, the abandoned offices have been updated from their original incarnations to resemble the offices of Dunder Mifflin from the ever-popular Steve Carell series. The placement of Pam's desk as well as a couch near the entrance and the conference room and even Dwight and Jim's desks are unmistakable. Clearly some die-hard fan at Naughty Dog saw an opportunity and took it.
That is our building. And we sell paper.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.